Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
I don't know.
You have to have a favorite. What comes to mind?
You are listening to Scream with Ryan C. Showers, the podcast for Scream fans just like you. Join Ryan every week as he takes a deep dive into the horror film series that defined the 90s and redefined the genre. Scream with Ryan C. Showers is your source for scene and quote analysis, character dissections, and the latest news about upcoming installments of the Scary Movie franchise.
I hear you like horror movies, Kirby, but do you like them as much as him?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Scream with Ryan C. Showers podcast, where the film critic meets the Scream fan twice a week, every Tuesday and Friday. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. Before I go any further, I need to thank the producers and administrators of Scream with Ryan C. Showers. First, I need to thank TJ Jones, who does all of the graphic design work from the podcast. Also, I need to thank Ashley Summers, Mark Vieira, Sarah Campbell, and Sam Levy for helping me keep the podcast and Patreon community afloat. Thank you to everybody who subscribes to the Patreon at any and every tier. I'm an independent entity, so any bit of support that comes into the Patreon goes back into the podcast. Joining the Patreon gets you ad-free and early access to every episode, as well as the opportunity to join the community of the show. We have group chats across social media. In particular, Instagram is really the hub of the podcast community. More importantly, joining the Patreon is the vessel in which you would use to come onto the podcast, either in a one-on-one situation with me or a small panel. In addition, there's a guaranteed invite every month to a big group Zoom recording about a Scream topic. An exciting feature of the podcast is the audio commentary episodes. Every Scream fan knows what it was like listening to Wes Craven do the audio commentaries for the original trilogy and Scream 4, with Marianne Maddalena and Kevin Williamson and Patrick Lussier. And what I'm trying to do for my Patreon subscribers is I am going to be performing an audio commentary of a Scream or a Scream-related movie, one per month, every month. And my goal is to try to approach these as I'm doing deep analytical analysis about the characters, about the themes, about just general reaction. So it's something that I'm really proud of and I hope continues to be a cherished part of the podcast. So the commentary is available as a normal podcast episode for anybody to listen to like they would any other podcast, but it will also be available as a video watch along. So everybody, please go over to Patreon, subscribe to Scream with RCS. I would be eternally grateful. So I need to go through and thank everybody over at Patreon who is subscribed as a stab investor or a daddy/mama Ghostface. So the daddy/mama Ghostface of the Patreon are Carrie Tenney, Brett Janovich, Corey Wilson, and Stevie Shears. The stab investors include Allie, Amar Karim, Tamika Jones, David D., Gustavo Mora, Jess Mariano, Joey Nobarini, aka The Vault, Josh Calamari, Josh Carr, Scream Queens podcast, both Josh and Justine, The Horror Project podcast, Kevin Abner, Mark Vieira, PWO5, aka Philip Douglas, Quentin Harrison, and Sam Levy. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Scream with Ryan C. Showers. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. I have a very special guest. So this guy was on an episode in March about ranking every performance, character arc, moment for Gale Weathers. We ranked Gale like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like the 6 movies, we put them in order and we talked about each of the movies and why we ranked them in that way. So to follow up, I have him here to discuss the Scream 7 trailer. But since then, since the Gale Weathers episode through now, through us getting the Scream 7 trailer, you may have learned his name from social media because he's gotten a lot of scoops, a lot of cool information that he's gotten to share with us, the Scream community, about Scream 7 as we were waiting eagerly and anticipating the trailer. So everyone, please welcome my friend Jude. Hey, Jude.
Hey, hi. I'm so glad to be here. How's it going?
Well, I'm so happy to be sitting here with you.
I'm super happy to be sitting here with you.
So, Jude, okay, let's start out with who you are, because so listeners of the podcast will remember you because that was a great episode. You were so much fun.
It was.
You really challenged me in terms of being a Gale Weathers expert in that episode. And you were, it's so fun because we ended up having the same Gale ranking by the end of the episode, which was cool.
Yeah, because I started off with a specific ranking and then you convinced me otherwise, Mr. Ryan. This is why the order of my Gale movies has changed, thanks to you.
Oh, well, when we finish the episode talking about the trailer, I would love to give a prediction for where Scream 7 is going to fall in our Gale ranking.
Okay.
But before that, before we even get to the trailer, I want to talk about you. So,
Yeah.
Jude, why don't you tell everybody who you are and like where they can find you online?
Okay. So it's a given. My name is Jude. And the thing is about many people, like especially YouTubers, they mispronounce my family name, which is so funny to me. My name is Jude Jarjoura.
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 I got an
Yeah.
on-air training of that back in
Yeah,
March.
Jarjoura. I'm Lebanese. I'm from Lebanon. I'm half American as well, but I reside and work in Lebanon for now. This is why I have this weird English accent. So this is why. Yeah, so that's pretty much it.
Well, so Jude, okay, but like, let's not understate the importance of who you are. I think like even like if you're on Scream Twitter or on Scream like online, you'll know who he is, even from Instagram, because you don't really have like a horror or
I
Scream
don't.
Instagram.
I don't. I have a very private Instagram. Like I rarely accept people. Yeah.
But it's fun because I still get to like, because like you're my friend, I feel like some comfort in being able to share your stuff on Instagram. So
I'm
you're
grateful for that.
your name is still known out there as an entity, regardless of personal privacy. So people know who you are. You delivered us a lot of Scream 7 tea over the summer. Felt
Not
like
over,
that.
by the way.
Oh,
I have so many things to share.
so that's good. I mean, do you want to comment on what the experience has been like? And like, let's clear it up too. It's not like you were posting bullshit, made up stuff. Like some other
Yeah.
content creators out there who just blatantly lie just for the views and the clicks on their YouTube videos. Like
Yeah.
like everything that you've said and that you've reported has materialized, and we saw it come out in the trailer, which is so cool.
Yeah, I was waiting for that trailer because so many people actually doubted me. Some YouTubers actually, first of all, I'm really grateful for so many YouTubers that have given me credit and stuff. But so many YouTubers were like, when they mentioned my name, they would be like, oh, but this is some random Sydney fanatic who's just doing fan fiction. So I'm so glad that this trailer has, proven my credibility.
Well, you're definitely incredible, and like I never, of course, I mean, like there are things I can't say on air, of course, but like
Yeah.
but like the attitude by some YouTube people of the way that they acted with your information at first, it was very. I didn't like it, and I mean, YouTube isn't like the greatest in terms of Scream
It's
content
not.
creators.
It's
Like
not. It's not.
there are some good apples, but like most
Yeah.
of them I don't really care for, especially like
Same.
yeah. So, but regardless, like what was it
But you
like
know
to?
what? I don't blame them, because if you like go through my profile when I started back in October 2022, you were one of the first accounts that I've ever followed. I was like basically like saying that Scream 6 should bring Nev Campbell back. And like in summer 2023, I would be like saying if Sidney comes back, she should be a co-lead. So I
Yeah,
don't blame them because like the transition of my account, it's not like I'm a leaker or something who has been sharing stuff for
right.
years. I'm just
Yeah,
like the Sidney Gale stan
right.
who just happens to have info, like insider information for the movie. So I get it in the beginning, but yeah.
But yeah. So but I have to ask, because like, going from somebody who, isn't really a content creator to
Yeah.
everybody having their eyes on you, all of
Yeah.
the eyeballs on you, on your information, on your profile is getting like screen capped and put in YouTube videos, and like, people know who your name is. People are asking me in my Facebook comments, who is Jude? Like, so what was that experience like?
Yeah, at first it was very overwhelming because I
Yeah.
didn't think that it would like my tweets would go viral the way they do now. I get these DMs, like people would like randomly message me, "Oh, does Gale die in Scream 7?" Like I got like some of the weirdest messages, which is very funny for me. Like, or like,
Well, it's fun because like, if there's one person in the world who can understand what it's like to be like literally in the Scream community where people know your first and last name and people use
yeah,
it casually, it's me,
yeah,
right? Because I have the name of my podcast. Whereas a lot of
yeah,
like
exactly.
a lot of like YouTube people and other content creators, like even like, Hello Sydney, even like accounts like that, like websites, like they're not as forward facing like with their face. It's
Yeah,
usually
yeah,
a concept or an idea or a pseudonym, even like, a fake
yeah, yeah,
name.
yeah. Mhm.
And, it's like that's something that I've kind of struggled with over the past couple of years is like this
It is
idea
a
of like
struggle, not gonna lie. Yeah,
right, like, it's like you're afraid there's a personal privacy element that's kind of violated, and especially like with me, I've kind of had the best of worlds and the worst of worlds because like the worst of worlds is like I have thousands of Melissa Barrera people harassing me, tweeting about my first and last name, all these crazy things, like but at the same time, everyone wants to know like what does Ryan think, or like, just so it's it is what it is. But like, if there's anybody in the world who can identify with going from having your
I
name
know
out
how
there,
you
it's
feel.
you.
Not to quote Sidney in Scream 4.
That's where I was
Yeah.
going. I'm Sidney and
Yeah.
you're Jill.
Yeah, like I know how you feel. Yeah, I've had this conversation over the summer with a very dear friend of mine. His name is George. I say hi because he's definitely listening right now. Hi, George. We have had this conversation of like, should I change my, username or not? But it started like as a fan with my personal Twitter. I only post like horror scream stuff. So if I transition to a different username, like people are gonna get lost. So I just kept it the way it is. I haven't shared my face yet on Twitter.
Yeah.
I was like saying the other day, maybe I should do a face reveal. I just hit 1K followers, but I don't know if I want to do that.
Yeah. Well, you're very cute. So if you did, like, I'm sure I get 5,000 likes. So Jude, thank you so much for everything that you've given to the Scream community, all of the
My
nuggets.
pleasure.
Honestly, here's what I have to thank you for. There are people who like want their appetite of spoilers wet and like just information about the movie. Yeah, sure, whatever. Thank you. But I care more about you and like why I love you so much as a person. And like this was like we've been friends long before any of the Scream 7 stuff.
Yeah.
So, but the thing I love about you and I have loved about you for years now is your commitment to Sidney and Gale and the integrity of the franchise and the integrity of them as characters and like almost like the opinions that you post, the advocacy that you post for them. It inspires me and I feel like because of that, like you and I fundamentally understand each other. Like we are on the same side in
We really are.
whatever
Yeah.
whatever discourse is out there,
Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you so much for being somebody who I feel like
My
I feel so
pleasure.
I feel so understood by you.
It's reciprocated, by the way, because I feel the exact same way for you. Because whenever I like open Twitter or something, or like even before we even like connected, like we spoke, I've always like looked up to your account and I was like, oh my God, like he really gets it. He really gets the legacy of Gale and Sidney, and
Yeah.
especially Gale, because Gale is such an underrated final girl. We're gonna get into that in a bit. We can talk about it like Gale and Scream 7 without spoiling anything. I really love that you really like understand how grounded and how crucial she is to the franchise. And she's,
Yeah.
in my opinion, and I think yours as well, she's as important as Sydney is.
She is. And like just for the record, everybody, we are not going to be talking any spoilers.
No,
We're
no,
just
no, 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 no.
purely going
No,
to be
no.
talking the trailer here. So
Yeah. Yeah.
and just
No spoilers.
the events of the past couple of weeks. So I want to
Yeah.
start out here with
Yeah.
this idea of because we're talking about Sidney and Gale as final girls.
Yeah.
Here's my perspective on the way that the trailer rolled out and like the marketing around it, the poster and the stills. I love Jude. I love it so much that basically the studio was like that they're pushing at this moment just Nev Campbell, just Isabel May, and just Courtney Cox. And like I know the trailer is a little bit lopsided because Courtney only gets the one big moment. But if you look at
a banger.
the banger though, but she's the only one in the trailer who gets to talk, any
Yeah.
besides them. And
Yeah.
we have a picture of Nev with the gun. We have the picture of Isabel in the jacket, and we have Gale, of course, in the red jacket on the street. So
And you have Ghostface.
so it's just so cool to me that like this movie is being sold as of right now as Gale Weathers is Tatum Evans and Sidney Prescott, Nev,
Yeah.
Isabel, and Courtney. Like to me, that just feels so satisfying.
I love that too, and what's more satisfying to me because I happen to know things more than the general audience without giving anything away. And I've said it before, like, and this time they aren't baiting us with Sydney or Gale because
Yeah.
this is a real Sydney story. And I've said it since June. This is going to be a Sydney story. There's not. Isabel May is a main player in the movie. She's a lead, but again, she is not the focus, which I really love. And I'm so glad that they aren't pushing the new generation, the teenagers, to be like in the forefront in the marketing. They're just using our legacy final girls and the amazing actress, which I'm sure she's going to be a fan favorite, Isabel May.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
so that's interesting that you say that and you phrase it that way because like we've been confronted with like, Jill in Scream 4 and then Sam in Scream 5 and like, the difference is between Tatum and those two is like what you just said about like the friend group and like there was so much emphasis on Sam/Jill and her friend.
The new cast, like the newbies, like a new generation passing the baton. Even if Scream 4 is my favorite movie in the entire franchise, I know it's a hot take. I know
not.
Scream 4. Yeah, it gave us Kirby. like
It's
my
awesome.
favorite character, like right after Sidney and Gale. She's like my top two because Gale and Sidney come together in one anyway. Even in Scream 4, we kind of get this new feel like, oh, this is the new teens of Woodsboro. And in Scream 5, obviously, it's like these are the focus of the movie, which is very, like, they are very talented, but it's very unfortunate for us legacy fans. But this time, I think like Kevin really cracked the code in this one. Like, we're just following Sidney Prescott in a new chapter of her life, but this chapter in Sydney's life involves her daughter. So all the teens are just supporting characters this time because every Scream movie needs a new supporting cast. So they're not put in the forefront with her or Sydney, which is very cool.
Well, and like I don't want to discount like the relationship between Sydney and Jill because they definitely had a really well-defined relationship before the
They did.
finale. But
Yeah.
this, what we're seeing with Sydney and Tatum is like times 10 of that. And like with
Yeah.
Sydney and Sam, they did not have a relationship. Like Sydney
No.
tried to help her, and Sam shut her out. There was no real substantial connection there. So that I think is like a huge difference in terms of what we're saying here. So there isn't going to be that emphasis on her friend group because the friend group really is Sydney and Tatum with a dash of Gale. So you know,
Yeah, exactly.
But Jude, so let's talk about the trailer. What did you think of the trailer?
Oh, first of all, I've been saying since September, I've had this tweet that I've been told that something's gonna drop around Halloween. During the lead up to Halloween, I wasn't very sure of my information because I was like, they should have announced something. They wouldn't like drop it like a bombshell like they did. And luckily they did. So that's one. Two, it's a very perfect trailer. I really love the focus on Sydney and Tatum. The trailer showed a lot without showing too much, if you know what I mean. I really love that it showcased some of the best set pieces of the movie. Like, I really love when trailers like show you like big chunks, like even though they're not chronologically right or like the way they are spliced in the trailer, like there's so much more into it in the movie. But I love like we have like 30-40 seconds of one big set piece. How much can you show of that without spoiling it? It's a very tricky job and they did it. So that's I give it to them. I think we've seen like in the trailer, we've seen like 20% of Sydney's scenes, only 20%, even though the trailer was Sydney focused. But I think we've only seen 20% of her scenes. We've seen 60% of Tatum's scenes, and we've seen literally 1% of Gale's screen time. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So Jude, if you had to predict, because like I'm kind of like the master of like the screen time. I know this is kind of off topic of the trailer, but like,
Yeah.
would you say that the screen time kind of follows the like if we're going in order, like from all the characters in the cast, like Sydney's number 1, Tatum's number 2, and Gale's number 3, or does like Mark come up ahead of Gale, or is it about equal?
I think Gale and Mark are. I'm not like it's not like 20 minutes, like 20 minutes each, but I think I don't have the exact numbers, just a prediction of what I know and what I've seen. But I think Gale and Mark have this. Gale, it's like Sydney, Tatum, Gale, Mark, or Sydney, Tatum, Mark, Gale.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's fair. So, I want to ask you because like, you are privy to information. I'm privy to information that other people aren't. And like, I guess like the big talking points around the trailer were like, did it show too much or did it not
did
show
not.
enough? And
No.
I don't know if it was just my bias from like, our conversations and like, whatever. Like I just didn't feel like I didn't feel like it told us anything. I mean, it told us nothing about Stu. It told us nothing about like the plot, like the actual
Which
storyline.
I love that they didn't use Stu as a selling point, at least for this trailer. Yeah,
Because
like they only
could
focused
have.
on that. Yeah.
Like,
They could have easily.
And it could have been like such a cheap thing. And it could have been such a fan servicey thing. And instead they did this really like focus on like the human aspect of a mother and daughter.
Yeah.
So what would you say, like if to the people out there who are afraid that the trailer showed too much and was too spoilery, what would you say to them? What's your analysis of that?
You know nothing about the movie. You've seen nothing of it. Yeah.
You know nothing.
Literally nothing. We've only seen like 2 big set pieces, which are like half of the set pieces that Sydney's in. That's not a spoiler. Sydney has a lot of chases and fights. So we've only seen 2 of these. They haven't showed anything of Act 3. Yeah, like nothing of Act 3 instead of, like looking at Scream 5, I think we've literally seen Amber on fire. Yeah. But
And like
we
even Scream 6, like think about like Scream 6, we saw, Tara, falling with the "you have to let me go" moment. We saw Sam with the gun, before she shoots Quinn.
yeah, we've seen like Sam and Tara back to back. We've seen like Sam, they CGI'd Detective Bailey, like they were falling together from the balcony. They CGI'd him out of the scene in the trailer as
Terrible.
well. However, we do have, I'm not gonna say which shot, but we have like one or two like quick glimpses of Sydney in Act 3. But that's only it.
Well, that's great to hear, and like I think I can guess which shots those are, and like and
Yeah.
it makes me happy because I love that.
Yeah.
But what did
By
you
the way,
think?
they haven't showed anything of Act 2, by the way.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, like Act 2, I've already tweeted on this, so this is not a spoiler. Like Act 2 is basically focusing on Sydney and Gale going rogue together, like investigating everything. They showed nothing of Act 2, like
yeah.
literally nothing. Yeah,
You know what I think about
yeah,
people in Gale Weathers? I think
yeah.
people who like I think like there are people out there who the people who stan her in Scream 6, which I can't believe that there are people out there who think she's so great in Scream 6, but like the people who love her in Scream 6 and think it's like her best thing, they don't
Mhm.
really understand the character. I think if you are a true Gale Weathers fan and you truly understand how she functions in a Scream movie and why she's important, you look
Yeah.
at it's not even the original because there are a lot of people who think, oh, she's so funny
No,
in
no,
the
no,
original.
no. Definitely not the original. Scream 2, 3, and 4.
It's Wes Craven's sequels. That is
Yeah.
who Gale Weathers is. And what does she do in those sequels? She is part of the mystery. She's solving things. She's part of the plot. Like she's driving.
Yeah,
Like,
she's moving the plot forward.
and like in a way that Sidney doesn't, in a way that Sidney can't. And
Yeah.
I think that's partly why we don't see much of her is because they are trying to keep the plot and the storyline a secret for right now or keep it hidden. And if Gale's driving that storyline and plot, it would
She
make sense that
is.
they don't show a lot of her.
She is. She is. She is. This is. I think I'm biased. I know it, as you know it too. But the way I see Scream movies and the way I rate Scream movies is how they treat my favorite legacy characters. So if Gale was mistreated, I wouldn't like. It's not a spoiler, but I would just say it like they did her dirty. But I've received so many messages. I've read so many comments saying that, oh, you did trick us. But Gale is definitely a supporting character in this one because she's only in the trailer for 1 second, and I was like, hold on, wait a minute, just let's pause and reframe. You're gonna see when you see the movie, and I'm sure if there's another trailer that's gonna drop for sure. I think we're gonna see more of Gale. But the thing is, most of her scenes are spoilery.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can't talk about like you can't show Gale Weathers in action, talking to Sidney, investigating, going here, going there, looking for clues, whatever, without divulging what the storyline is. And if they're keeping the storyline under wraps for now, which I think is smart, and
Very smart.
and plus, like, here's the thing too, Jude, and I think you'll agree with it because I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this. But like,
Yeah.
the trailer broke records. It was a hot trailer. Everybody was watching it. It has 12 million views on YouTube. It broke TikTok records. Like it's running circles
Instagram.
around.
Yeah.
Yes, Instagram, everywhere, Twitter. Like
And we're only talking about the official accounts because like Paramount Pictures, Paramount Picture France, Philippines, like everywhere. We're not counting these. If you
Yeah.
want to count everything, we have more than I don't know, like 100 million views for the trailer, which is insane.
It's insane. And it's like, so I mean, there's a huge like watershed moment. But what I think is smart about the trailer is, the trailer to me is a Scream movie that is trying to appeal to everybody, not just Scream fans. It's not like I
Yeah.
think if it would have been a Sidney versus Stu full trailer, I think that would
It
have been
wouldn't appeal to everyone.
no, people wouldn't understand what's going on. It would be very fan servicey. Only people who
Yeah.
get it would get it. Versus
Yeah.
showing Sydney as a mom. And like 'cause the thing is, people who've seen Scream, they would recognize her, but they might not know all the
It
nuances.
can be a standalone movie, by the way. I haven't
yeah?
said this before. Yeah, it really can. Because, of course, like us, this is the epic return to form and the return of the face of the franchise to the forefront as the focus. But if someone who hasn't seen any Scream movie before, of course, they won't get all the references. Of course, it has a lot of nostalgia. It's not really fan servicey. The way I see it, even though the Marker's house, not a spoilers in the trailer, is in the movie, it's not like so fan servicey. Like they literally show and explain everything to the casual moviegoers. So yeah, it can definitely be like a mother trying to protect her family. This is the synopsis of the movie. Like a mother trying to survive. She's run away from her past, her darkness. And by the way, we start with Sydney in a very good place.
Right.
She's happy, she's content, and then chaos ensues as it goes with these movies.
That sounds like a direct quote from Dev Campbell's mouth. Oh my god.
Yeah, it is.
But Jude, so what did you think of Gale Weathers' big moment in the trailer? Because you're a Gale guy. We're gonna start with her.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna lie, it was a bit, I was I haven't seen a cut of the trailer before, so I was like watching it like everybody else, which is cool. I kind of expected more. Like the
Oh.
first time I've seen the trailer, I was like, oh, but this, what? What did I just see? Like, is that it? Like, yeah. But looking back and like analyzing everything, I get it. And she's the only one to like have a line in the trailer.
Yeah.
Like it's like Nav, Courtney, and Isabel. Like this is it. Nobody else like talks. A very witty one-liner, by the way. She has a lot, but they chose a very good one after a very specific, a very crucial moment in Gale's arc. By the way, like this is after a very like. Oh my God, I don't want to spoil anything, but this is after a major scene.
I feel like what you just described, being slightly underwhelmed by just that one moment for her, that makes sense considering like, what what you've posted and stuff.
Yeah.
But like for the so for instance, I watched it with my sister, and my sister, she is the biggest Scream fan. Scream 1, 2, and 3 and 4 are her babies with me. She knows them.
I love
She
your
knows
sister.
she knows every single line to them, but she's not online. I mean, she'll see my posts and she'll like them, but like she's not knee deep in the weeds. So
Yeah.
when she saw Gale Weathers, she literally did a fist pump and she said, "Yeah, that's our girl," and she laughed at
Yeah.
what Gale said. So again, I think that's kind of like what the normal person who's kind of outside the bubble would react to.
I love all of that. By the way, can we talk about how gorgeous she looks in this trailer?
Yeah.
What do you think
Yeah.
of her look?
So listen, the look, oh my God. I think, first of all, I think she looks wonderful. I think that like her haircut is actually very interesting because it's
It
different.
is.
I think Scream 6, 5, and 6, it's exactly the same hairstyle.
Yeah.
And this, I like that it's a shorter length. I like that like it's kind of parted in a different way, like around
Yeah.
her ears and shoulders. And specifically, I love the clothes. The pantsuits were fun in the moment, but in retrospect, I'm glad that we're going back to something that feels different. Like this feels very much like Gale Weathers in Scream 2, in my opinion.
Yeah, they haven't even shown her second outfit. Her second outfit, in my opinion, is incredible. I've posted about it before. She's wearing like a blue navy dress with a trench coat, like a black trench coat, and like boots. The
Oh.
second one is my favorite.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, and so the thing is about the red, I have to ask a brutal question.
Yeah.
Whenever you posted or we found out about the red blazer being back, I was kind of disappointed at first, like back in the summer, because I was like, we just had a red outfit though. Why would we redo that? But I have to say, I think that it is very unique and different from the red pantsuit of 5.
It is.
Now that we've seen it in action.
Yeah, exactly. And I love the leopard, blouse under it. It's a callback to her headband in '96, which I haven't paid attention to. I've seen it online. I was like, oh, I love this. This is smart. Cool
Well,
touch.
so, she's kind of like in a group with the Meeks twins in Scream 7. We see her getting out of the car with Chad. What did you think of the Meeks twins inclusion in the trailer? Because like honestly, like if you weren't paying super attention to Gale getting out of the car, you would miss Chad and you wouldn't
Yeah.
know that they're
You have to watch
connected.
it many times, I think.
Do you think that like I actually think it was kind of funny and smart that they showed the Meeks just randomly? They didn't show them
Yeah.
with Sidney or Gale. They just they're in the bar together and then we see them kind of fighting Ghostface. What
Yeah.
are your thoughts on that?
I really loved seeing them, by the way. When I saw them in the trailer, I was like, oh, like I didn't know how much like I love these characters, obviously, but they're not like a Gale or a Sidney or a Kirby. But I think Scream 7 is gonna solidify them more as legacy characters.
Yeah.
However, there's for what they have to do in the movie, in my opinion, what we see of them in the trailer is more than enough because
Sure.
they definitely don't have a lot of screen time, just like Gale. I think they are like in a Kirby Scream 6 kind of screen time.
Well, that makes sense to them. And like, it's fine. They just had a movie. We're allowed to have our characters back. But like to your point, like,
Yeah.
don't you think it makes sense? Like, when people start talking about like legacy characters or characters who are super significant to the franchise, that like, yes, I think you need 3 movies to really be in that upper echelon.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right?
yeah, and this is their movie, in my opinion. And I think I wasn't that sold on Mindy in Scream 6, but Mindy looks and is amazing in 7.
Oh, that's great. I mean, I agree. I've gotten so many compliments on Mindy. It's funny, like, for the past 2 years, I've heard nothing good about Mindy in Scream 6. And
Yeah,
now,
no. Yeah, she slays, as the Gen Zs say on Twitter. She slays. She's mother.
so let's just count here. So the people who have been in three or more Scream movies. There is Sidney and Gale and Dewey, Randy, Otten, and just the twins, right? Just those seven, right? Is there anyone I'm missing?
Yeah. No.
Billy, Skeet Ulrich. No, he's been in three.
He is, if you want to count him, yeah.
Meh. Okay. Regardless. So let's talk about Isabel. What did you think of Isabel, like in the trailer?
Yeah, I think I really love that they focused on, we've talked about it before, like the mother-daughter dynamic, which is like the core of the trailer. I really loved her moment when she's like, I want to be a fighter like you, as cringy as some people said, but I think it's very cool. But they didn't show like everything to her character. She's not as girl next door vibe as she looks like in the trailer. Yeah.
I think that they did such a good job of hiding Tatum's personality. Because you're right, like got the girl next door. That's how they kind of sell her with like her laying on her bed. And like that is her. But like I feel like her personality is gonna be much more distinctive and sassy and cunty, as they
She
say.
kind of like, she's very reminiscent of Tatum.
Yeah, of the
Tatum
real
from
Tatum. Yeah.
96.
I think that they did a nice job of that.
They did, and I love her facial expressions. And she kind of looks like Nev Campbell in this trailer, like her dimples and like her, I see something in her eyes that kind of reminds me of Nev, which is weird, but yeah.
I mean, she has a very intense face shape, I think.
Yeah.
And I want to see more of it, but like, does it bother you that Sidney Prescott, who we know as like the most brunette of the brunettes, right, has a
blonde daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like. I don't mind it, but I think maybe like it's a reference or like a callback to Tatum. She has to be a blonde, but I think they should have dyed her hair brown or like something. Yeah. Like
Well, the thing is, like, and my friend Joey Valisi, who wrote the scripts for the podcast, and he made the point of saying like it makes sense that Tatum would be blonde because they're showing like that Sydney's daughter is nothing like her, and that's where the
He is
conflict is
nothing
going to
like her
come
mom.
from, and that's
Yeah.
where the great story is going to come from.
I love this analogy, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it goes beyond the personality. It's
Yeah.
about like the physical. Like they are so different, and they're going to clash, but that's also going to bring them together at the end. So
Yeah.
I love that. So, Jude, let's talk about Nev Campbell, Sidney Prescott, the return. Like, her being the main character again is something that you've wanted, that I've wanted. And we finally got to see it. And we got to see Nev acting the house down.
I cried. I got chills when I saw the trailer, I think, or when I first like got glimpses at the movie, like back during the summer. I was like, is that really happening or just am I dreaming? I thought like in a perfect word, Nev Campbell would return as the focus. I knew that they would bring her back at some point, but I've always thought of her as she's going to be like in the background, like she's going to pop in, pop out, like she did in Scream 5, or maybe like the best case scenario, she's going to be a co-lead with Sam. That was, the most you're going to get out of her. I've never, like, after seeing Scream 5, I think I've had like this thought in the back of my mind that we're never going to see Sidney as the focus again. Which is sad, but
the universe said no.
No, and it gave it to us, and it's very satisfying. Like her charisma on screen, I think it's not talked about enough, and we just see like 5% of her range in the movie in that trailer. Her facial expressions, her screams. I think she had like a point to prove, Nav, and that's just my opinion. I think she had like a point to prove that I can sell a Scream movie, and Scream fans are gonna show up for Sidney, and we're gonna support her no matter what, because this is a dream for a lot of us. And Ryan, what's very satisfying for me?
What?
Yeah, my love language for people I love, my friends, my family, is like forcing them to watch the first 6 Scream movies. So when the trailer came out, I sent them like my 17-year-old cousin in London, 10-year-old cousin in Canada. I sent them the trailer and they would be like, oh my God, Sydney's back, Gale. I love that even like the children, like the teenagers, are actually, at least my cousins or my friends, are like legacy fans. Like they want Sidney, they want Gale. I think my 10-year-old cousin commented something on Sidney's picture on the Scream account, like haters are gonna hate, but Nev Campbell's return is gonna eat, or something like this. I was like, you go, girl.
Can I just be mean for a second?
Yeah,
I just feel like, and I know we're not supposed to do this, but I'm going to do it. Don't care. Like, I just don't
Your
believe...
podcast, your rules. Come on.
I just don't believe in my heart that everybody, how you describe like the people in your real life that you show Scream to, because I'm the same way. I don't believe that the people in our real lives would be so excited or even remember who Sam and Tara are if the roles were reversed. So let's just say, like, in 5 or 10 years, they come back, and
Yeah.
we said to the trailer they're going to be like, oh, who are these new characters? So it's just so I think that there is something to the fact that it is Sidney's franchise. She is returning to the main character position, and like it just feels like home. It feels like Scream, and it feels, I have to say, very original. I feel like the stuff
It
that we
is.
saw in Scream 7 in the trailer, I think that's the one thing. Like, because with Scream 5 and 6, there was so much repetition. There was so many, as they would call them, homages, honoring Easter eggs. This feels like a brand new, original story and location and vibe
With the
with original
as the focus.
characters. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no bullshit. And I think that is so refreshing. And I think audiences are going to
We
reward
need
that.
that, by the way. The franchise needs this, especially after Scream 6. I didn't mind the setting, like New York. It was kind of exciting, but I think it's a bummer and a missed opportunity. I get the circumstances that the shrine was about Sydney's life. Like, the whole memorabilia was Sydney's life, and she wasn't there to witness it.
Yeah. Imagine, like, I feel like if Sidney would have been a part of the shrine, it would have been such a different scene. It would have been so much more dramatic. It would have been so much
Yeah.
heavier. It would have been so necessary in this franchise,
It is necessary, but unfortunately. But yeah, I think, no comment.
Well, so what was your favorite part of the trailer? Like, what was your number one favorite thing? I know you referenced the "I want to be a fighter like you" moment, which is one of my favorite moments as well. But is there anything else you would like to share?
Yeah, I love this. Can I say two? Like, I have two favorite
Of
moments.
course, go ahead.
I have "Where is my daughter?" when
Yeah.
Sydney screams, "Where is my daughter?" and "Let's unmask this fucker."
Yeah. Well,
What are you?
I would probably say, so I love the phone call with Sidney talking to Tatum and telling her where to shoot at the door.
Yeah.
That's my number one. I would say I want to be a fighter like you. I love the "Where is my daughter?" I love Sidney I love there's a shot of her where she is, it's like a dark room and Sidney bursts through the doors and she does like a gun check on both sides. I love that moment. I love
That's
Gale.
after. Yeah,
Go ahead.
that's after the. It's not a spoiler, but I'm just like giving you small scoops. That's after the like camera, the whole phone call camera
Right.
thing. So yeah, this is right after this. Yeah.
I figured. So I like that. I love the 2 seconds that we see of Gale both getting out of the car, and the big line. I like the shot of Sidney in front of the ambulance.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's so many things, but like, I guess like everything I like is Sidney and Gale.
Same, honestly.
So here's a fun fact. The trailer reveals that the movie is set in the month of November, which
Yeah.
I think is really smart because it gives us the vibe of fall time in a small town is so strong. Like, so it's November right now, and I'm in the town where I grew up. It's a very small town, like maybe 3,000 people. I'm at my mom's house, so I
Yeah.
feel the same vibe that's outside right now that's in the movie. So
Yeah.
it's just like that's another thing I love about the trailer.
That's very challenging, by the way. They filmed in the winter, like it snowed during the shoot, and it doesn't look like winter.
No, not at all. I think the trailer is amazing. And my last question about the trailer to you, Jude, is it can be kind of a pivot into our ranking predictions here. But like for Nev Campbell, I feel like how when you're in a career, right? You're not necessarily like you don't really know how to do your job so well when you first start out. Like you're like the first year of your career is much different from the 10th year versus the 20th. So imagine being an actress and they, a lot of actresses, they get more opportunities when they're younger than when they're older. And I feel like Nev Campbell has this really unique and amazing opportunity. Like she has obviously improved her acting over the years, right? So, and she gives these amazing groundbreaking performances in 1, 2, and especially 3, and 4, right? And then now that she is so much older, she's had so much more experience acting, and she's ahead in her craft, and she has developed, and within her career, she gets the opportunity to have these big, dramatic, showy moments. Isn't that so cool?
It is so cool. And I just like put it in the face of those ageist haters who they would call Nev names and they would say mean stuff to her. My God, have you seen her smile? And the way, like, she's such an angel, but I love this contrast when she's like angry, like Sydney fighting. Like she has like the door next door vibe, but she can be like tough. This is the contrast that I love about Sydney. And I think Nev's actor, first of all, she aged like the finest wine. But I think the more she's aging, I think the better her acting is. From what I've seen, I think this is going to be Sydney's best, like Nev Campbell's best performance as Sydney Prescott, because as you've said, the experience she's had and to the material she has to work with this time. And Kevin Williamson has that. Like, actors need good material. Like, they need character arcs. And she has it in this movie. She's not like, oh, hey, I'm here to help you because I have kids and I will sleep till he's in the ground. Bam, bam, bam. Okay, bye. No, it's not like this. So yeah.
Well, so that I guess that answers that question. You think that Scream 7 will come in at number 1 in your Sidney
Yeah.
ranking?
At least for me. Yeah.
Wow. No, I mean, it could for me too. We'll see. I live and die by her in Scream 3, but if this, she looked very intense.
She has more screen time than 3, so that helps because I think she's in pretty much every scene, even though if it's a scene of Tatum, she would be like on the phone or something. So she has like a lot of space to breathe. Like, and something I really love about Scream 7, I think it kind of shows in the trailer, is that it is a roller coaster ride, but characters are given some room to breathe. Like, you sit with these characters, you get to know them more, and then when they're in danger, you have to root for them. It's not like, oh, here's this character, bam, 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 they died. And I'm here talking about the core cast. I'm not talking about the cannon fodder, like the supporting cast. I'm just talking about the leads of the movie.
Right. Well, so let's now up the ante. So let's remind everybody our Gale ranking that we settled on back in March, which is a great
I
episode.
don't remember it.
I do. So but everybody go, if you haven't listened to these ranking Sidney, ranking Gale, ranking Dewey episodes from March of 2025, go back and listen. All three of those episodes are really fantastic. Jude is on the Gale one. So we came up with a consensus ranking between us, which goes Scream 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 6, I believe it was. So within that ranking, where do you predict Scream 7 Gale will fall? Because we still, the trailer only gave us a little bit of her. It's still, it could be very fluid where she ends up.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts?
I think I can answer this without giving anything away. I think she would be right after Scream 2 for me. Scream 2 has, like, Scream 2 Gale is so close to my heart. Yeah, so I think her acting is definitely better. She has some of the best moments and character arcs in the entire franchise. Her range in this movie is excellent. But for me, it would be Scream 2 and then 7 for Gale. Yeah.
Well, so I'm going to say, like, it's really hard for me to go against the West sequels. I'm going to say that Scream 7 Gale is going to match Scream 4 Gale. I think that, like, it will be, I think
That's excellent.
Yeah, I think it will go 2, 3, 7/4, 4/7, and then 5, 6, whatever. So I think just because I think the quality of her material here is going to be a little higher than it was in 6, and the screen time is going to be more than 5 and 6.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be about 4. Whether it's above 4 or below 4 is to be determined. But I think it's going to be really hard for her to top 2 and 3 for me. But that's just a prediction.
By the way, Scream 4 is an amazing Gale movie.
Yes, it is. I'm in a mini Scream 4 era. By the time this comes out, people will have heard. There's an episode in November that we just did. It's about, like, Scream 3 and Scream 4 as the underrated sequels of the franchise.
They are.
And
they really are.
Yeah, they're amazing. But well, Jude, thank you so much for coming and sharing your thoughts.
I have a question, because obviously I can't answer any of these, but I'm gonna have some fun with you for like a few more minutes. 2 minutes.
Please.
Okay, I want to hear your thoughts, not thoughts, like predictions of, like, characters' fates, if they are a survivor, a killer, or a victim. So I'm gonna say the name of the character. So now I'm gonna interview you. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're Gale and I'm Sidney.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah. Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. Okay. Sidney, obviously.
Survives.
Okay. Mark.
Dies.
Tatum.
Survives.
Gale.
Survives.
Chad.
Survives.
Mindy.
Dies.
Anna Camp.
Am I allowed to say killer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tatum's boyfriend.
Killer.
McKenna Grace.
Dies.
Celeste O'Connor.
Dies.
Asa German. Isa, I don't know his name. Like, Asa German. Anna's son.
That's tough, because if she's the killer, does her son die? I'm going to say dies. I don't know. Maybe she doesn't. Maybe she doesn't. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. Interesting. Ethan Embry. Is that his name?
Yeah. The question about Ethan Embry is, like, does he have a big enough part to even matter? I'll say dies.
Okay. The opening couple is a given.
Yeah.
After the trailer. One more question. Is Stu dead or alive in Scream 7?
He is dead, and this is just we're not doing this. I'm sorry. Like, Yeah, he is dead.
One more question. Do you think Scream 7 is the beginning of the end or the end of the beginning?
The beginning of the end, meaning like this is like the end of like maybe the last couple movies that Sidney Prescott will do. I think it will be chapter
You
one.
think you're going to have more, or Scream 7 is going to be the last Sidney movie?
No, well, it will not be the last Sidney movie. I think that like even if Tatum gets more of a lead in Scream 8, I think that
I don't think so.
I think Sidney will get Scream 9 like we're getting her right now. I think it's going to be Scream 7, 8, 9. Nev Campbell stars, directed by Kevin Williamson, starring Courtney Cox too, and Isabel May. But I do think that like Scream 9 will be whenever it is over for Sidney, regardless. You know?
Yeah, that's my guess too. I mean, a new Sidney trilogy is long overdue, and we kind of need it at this point. So yeah, a new Sidney trilogy. Feed us some Sidney.
Inject it into my veins, please.
Yeah, please, 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 please. Ryan, I want to thank you a lot for having me here. I want to thank everyone who's listening. I really appreciate your support. It really means a lot to me. Yeah, thank you so much.
So one last question for you. The big moment of the trailer, or the big set piece, like in terms of action that we saw, was the wall set piece of like we see them going into the safe room and then Sidney and Tatum crawling through the walls. This, first of all, I think it's very creative and fun, and a fun way to
It
use
is.
like Sydney's like security, right? And like the way that she's thought about like how she and her family could get out of the house safely.
Exactly.
But you know, there have been, I mean, the haters on Twitter have basically criticized the trailer for being either too generic or that it's
Oh,
hard to, it's too darkly lit, like it's too dim. What are your thoughts on that as it pertains to the wall set piece?
oh, I think this is one of the best set pieces of the entire movie. It was perfectly directed. It's perfectly paced. Of course, a bit spliced weirdly for the trailer for obvious reasons, but I think the cinematography is amazing. The shots, the tension, and I'm not gonna let this drag for a while, but I just want to say that I think we all, when we get like a Sydney chase scene in the middle of the movie, it is cool to see her getting chased, but we kind of know that she's going to make it out. But I think it's really creative and it's really cool that we kind of have her with her family getting chased. So the stakes are higher. And then we see our favorite final girl in action. And she has a lot of fights in this movie. I think we've seen only 2 set pieces of her. She has like 4 or 5. So yeah.
You know, Nev Campbell is a warrior for doing all of this
Yes.
action at her,
Yeah.
at her age.
She's a ballerina, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. Well,
Yeah.
I think that Wes Craven is looking down, smiling at the trailer. So.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Jude, thank you so much. Please tell everybody where they can find you online.
You can find me for now on Twitter. It's just my weird name. Actually, I don't say Jude. In Lebanon, everyone calls me Jude, French. So I'm going to pronounce it the way I'm used to it. So it's Jude Jarjoura on Twitter.
Everybody, thank you so much to Jude. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me.
Thank you. I love you, man. Anjad, it means really. You're really amazing. بحبك كتير. It's in Arabic. So you can look it up.
Thank you so much. And I feel the same way about you. So
Thank you. Thank you so much.
hello, everybody, and welcome to the next segment of Scream with Ryan C. Showers. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. I'm sitting here with one of my good friends. Everyone, please welcome TikTok Jake, aka ScoobyScream, aka Jake Lub on TikTok. So, welcome, Jake.
Ryan, thank you so much for having me. And minor update, I changed my TikTok.
Shut the fuck up. Oh my God.
I did. I changed my TikTok name to Scooby.Scream in honor of you, partially.
God.
And I wanted to be ScoobyScream. Someone on TikTok has ScoobyScream. They haven't posted in like 2 or 3 years, but they took that handle. So I had to do Scooby.Scream, which is fine.
Those
but
bitches.
I know, right? I messaged them to be like, hey, like, you haven't been active on TikTok in like 3 years, and I post almost every day, sometimes multiple times a day. Could I please have this handle? And I just haven't heard back. So part of me wants to reach out to TikTok and be like, can I have ScoobyScream? The period is annoying, but it's fine. People, you know, if you want to reach me, you'll find me on there. And I'm also at ScoobyScream on, we can just get this out of the way now since we're talking about it, but I'm at ScoobyScream on X and Scream on Instagram. And I also have a personal Instagram that you're welcome to follow, which is Jake Lub, which was my old TikTok handle. So now we're all caught up on that.
I did not know that your name changed. Oh my God. Because like I thought to myself, you know, since you've been ScoobyScream, I'm like, you know, Jake should really change it to have it be one thing across all platforms. So I'm glad that you did.
I did. I'm pretty much consistent now. And that, I think that just makes more sense since my TikTok is really, you know, really for like personal friends, family. I mean, if they find it, that's great, but I'm not out here promoting it really. It's,
Right.
you know, it's the Scream family and community that I want to see that most. And
Well,
Scooby Doo, obviously, and horror.
I love it. And so Jake and I are here to discuss the Scream 7 trailer. So before I hear from Jake, I just want to share some data for that I collected over the past couple of days. So I put out a poll on Instagram, on Twitter, and within my personal Patreon just to see what people were thinking about the trailer because like from my vantage point, I saw like almost universally positive reaction with some, naysayers, with some boycott stuff, whatever. But like mostly it was just like everyone was like really thumbs up. There were some rage baiting articles that made me kind of doubt myself. So I put out a poll just to see. So this is a sample. So, okay, the options were loved it, everything I wanted it to be, liked it, mixed, or hated it. So those are the same four options across all three of these platforms. So here we go. Instagram, 1,600 people voted. So 1,617 people voted. 76% loved it. 13% liked it, 10% mixed, 1% hated. Next up was Twitter. 600 people voted in this one. 70% loved it, 16% liked it, 10% mixed, 4% hated it. And then, of course, rounding out with Patreon, 74% loved it, 15% liked it, 12 mixed, and 0 hated. So, Jake, even before I get your perspective here, because I want you to answer this question, I think that the numbers here are incredibly solid. Like thousands of people voting on Instagram to just my people kind of voting on Patreon. And even with the wild card of Twitter, where Twitter has been like the heartbeat of like the anti-Scream 7 messaging, between 70 and 76% of people loved it consistently and practically nobody hated it. So for me, I consider this a huge win. So what are your thoughts on the reaction from the public opinion that I gathered here?
I'm not surprised because I've spoken with even casual Scream fans, people who, will see the movies when they come out, but they're not die hard, people like us. But people from work to just friends who have seen the trailer have all told me they think it looks fantastic. They're so excited about how Sidney is showcased front and center and about how she's coming back. And like these are better reactions than I recall getting for any of the Scream 5 or 6 trailers.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised to hear that people are so happy with it. I mean, there are, I think, a little things that we can nitpick. But I'm not surprised to hear it. I think they make it look exciting. Like we have tense moments. Like it showcases that we're going to be focused, heavily on Sidney, her daughter's friend group a little bit, Gale. Like I think they pretty much hit it out of the park in a lot of ways with the first trailer.
So within the poll, you are in the camp of 70% to 76% of people who loved it.
Yep. That was me. I voted and I'm in there. I am among that group.
Getting the Scream 7 trailer is kind of like the end of a long, windy road, and even kind of at the beginning of a new one for a lot of people like us, because we have been anticipating this movie now for 2 years. Like, it's crazy to think that 2 years, Jake and I were on the phone one rainy, stormy night in November thinking about what could be next for Scream. So in terms of like, just the overall impact, do you think that Scream 7, the trailer, lived up to those expectations that we as a fandom kind of held over 2 years of, a lot of controversy?
I think it's a great question. Here's the thing, and you can tell me if you sort of felt this way. The problem is how many times have you seen people saying this, the trailer's coming today, the trailer's coming tomorrow, the trailer's coming next week, the trailer's coming next month? I mean, it got to the point where I was just posting just hilarious bullshit things on X being like, guys, the trailer will be coming between now and February 27th. We hyped it up so much to the point where I think that unfortunately, whatever was going to be put out was going to not rise to our level of expectations. With that being said, I think the trailer we got did a damn good job at getting up there in terms of what we were expecting.
I would agree with you. I think that the expectation and the anticipation has been so intense. People were dying for this trailer. I think it's funny. I haven't really even talked about the all the people who kind of spread false information about when the trailer was coming, because that was exhausting to keep up with. I barely kept up with it. I was like, it'll come. But I actually will say as it pertains to Sidney, and I think characterizing the movie as the mother-daughter movie, I think for me those expectations were more than fulfilled. Like the scene with Tatum and Sidney Sidney when they're on the phone and Sidney's telling her where to shoot in the door. That exceeded any kind of expectation I would ever have hoped to have seen in the trailer, just based off of the intensity
Oh
of the
God.
acting in the
Agreed.
situation.
Agreed.
So
Agreed. I think that was very strategically included, and we just got glimpses of the kinds of conversations and aspects of their relationship that we're going to be exploring. But I think in that regard, this trailer exceeded my expectations. I got plenty of a tease as to what kinds of things we're going to be the dynamic we're going to see play out between Sidney and Tatum, and I was extremely happy in that regard.
what did you think of Isabel?
I really liked what I've seen so far. Like from the jump, I can see exactly why Nev was so adamant that it be her. I can see why clearly Kevin was in agreement with that. She is really, I don't know how to, elaborate beyond this, but she is giving what I would expect for a daughter of Sidney Prescott.
Yeah.
The fact that she wants to be a fighter, she has seen and experienced the struggles she's watched what her mom has had to go through. You can just see from the trailer, the kinds of parallels between them, but also the ways that like their relationship may be strained or they may have some difficulties. So like just seeing how Sydney is going to have to like mentor and guide her. I think that she is. I don't think she could have been cast better, and I think that there is a lot, that we're not seeing that is going to really reinforce that when we actually get the movie. There's nothing in this trailer. There was no moment where I felt like the casting decision was incorrect. I think she is going to lock in, and she's going to be the perfect person to take over, to take on the baton, if that's the direction they want to move to in later films. I'm pretty satisfied with her casting. How do you feel?
Oh, I love her. I think I've seen her in other projects, some lesser known projects. So I knew that this was in her. And to be honest, like back in the day when it was announced, I was like, the blonde hair. She doesn't, that doesn't feel like a Sydney daughter. But, at the same time, I've grown with it. I see like what they're doing. They're trying to show the contrast between Sydney and the daughter there. They couldn't be more different, which is why it's going to be beautiful to see them come together and work together and grow together. But so, Jake, I have been dying to know because of all of the people in my circle of friends and in the podcast circle and in the Scream circle, you have been probably the most vocal about criticizing the Stu Macher house from Scream 5. And now we are returning to the Stu Macher house. And we
Right.
saw, the first 30 seconds of the trailer which took place exclusively in the Macher house, and we see it getting burned down in the trailer. So what do you think of the concept of of this scene with it being an Airbnb? Two, do you think that the setting is better than what we got in Scream 5? And three, what are your impressions?
Yes, you're so right. I was a huge and still am a huge critic of the way that Scream 5 showcased the Mocker house and how clearly it was a soundstage. I don't know how many conversations we've had about that, too many to count. But that was one of my biggest gripes with Scream 5, that like even now, if you go back and rewatch it very much feels like it doesn't feel like it's a movie that like lives and breathes, obviously, the same way that the OG did, with all of the emphasis in that original that was placed on the location scouting and having very open, real locations. Like there's just something that feels so claustrophobic and artificial about the ending of Scream 5 and a lot of the film, honestly. Mainly, a big part of that was because it was shot during COVID and not actually filmed in the Santa Rosa Petaluma area like the OG was. In terms of what we suspect will be the opening in this new one that we've seen from the Scream 7 trailer, it's looking a lot better. I'm still not confident that they built the house outside, which is what I was hoping and what I had heard from some insiders was the case. But it does appear that if they did it on a soundstage, at least from the exterior shots of the house, it does look like they actually built the full thing to scale. I'm hoping that includes the garage and not just the basement, the fake basement that they decided to shoehorn in for Scream 5, which I've been to the real house, and California, and it doesn't have a basement unless I'm wrong and they were hiding it from me. I don't recall it having a basement. It does, however, have that big garage, that Tatum does try to escape from, which I've been in and have recreated that scene. If you follow me on socials, you've seen me do that. But like I'm just very hopeful that we'll see more of the house, that our characters will be chased around or go into all of the different rooms, and that it will have been built outside and we can kind of see the, drive up and get some exterior shots. Because one of the biggest things is I just hope this doesn't feel as closed off or contained as I feel like five and even six in some regards felt. Like we've
Yeah.
talked about how six was supposed to be everything different. We're going to New York, but they filmed it in Montreal. There were a lot of decisions made that I think did a disservice to New York City as the location. Some things were good, others were not. And I'm just looking for seven to be the return to form of like, I'm fine that it's going to be in a small town. The OG was in a small town, and Kevin and Wes made that feel so big and grand in scale. What I'm getting from this trailer for Seven, I am getting the sense that Seven is returning to those first few films' roots of, yes, being, based in a small town, either, Woodsboro or at Windsor College. I know obviously three was LA, so you can't really compare that. But all three of those films, even four, did a great job at capturing their respective locations in a way that I think five and six struggled to do. I am thinking that seven is going to do it better based on what I've seen.
Well, so that was the kind of like this kind of shoehorns into my next question for you, which is, kind of the production quality of it. Like, so it takes place in a small town, and we see a lot of real locations. Besides the opening, I'm pretty sure every single thing that we saw in this trailer takes place like on location, like in a real house, in a real, town square, in a real business, and like, so that to me is such a point of optimism, such hope. It gives me the vibes of not only Scream 1, but Scream 2 and 3 and 4. It feels real. It feels like it's part of the real world again. And I just think that the production quality looks so much better. So what are your thoughts on the production values here?
I am very excited about the fact that it does seem like most, if not all, of this was shot on location. Like the house, Sydney's house, like we've seen that they did film inside of it and outside of it, I believe. And I'm loving what I'm seeing. The shot of, I think it's Tatum running through downtown to get to, I believe, Sydney's coffee shop, Sydney being outside, in the streets on the phone with Ghostface, the "Where is my daughter?" The fact that we're seeing, it looks like Tatum leave the house and, walk with her friends, I'm assuming to school. We didn't even see any of the scenes at and around the school in the trailer, but I think the production value is going to be a big step up. And it's going to be a lot less of the sort of contained, like soundstage set pieces that we saw a lot in the last two movies. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to highlight. Like, I just want this movie I really want to be in the town. I want to be in Pine Grove. I want to feel it. I want to know the community. I want our characters to be out and about. And it does really seem like we're going to get that, which, yeah,
Well,
I'm just thrilled about.
so, one thing that you love about Scream 2, which is your favorite, right, is the action and the suspense of that movie. And, Scream 6 tried to replicate that. And I would argue that, like, they were trying so hard to achieve what Scream 2 did that it becomes less the overall product because you're trying so hard to copy what was done before instead of kind of naturally, organically doing your own thing. I think that there's something that kind of doesn't ring as true or as legitimate. What did you think of the set pieces and the action and suspense in this trailer that you saw?
Okay. Love the question. And can I also just say, I really like what you just said about Scream 6
Thank you. Yep.
because, and I can't remember if you've said this or if it's something we've alluded to, but Scream 6 got so obsessed with the set pieces to the point where things just didn't flow. If you want to know why I love Scream 2 so much, I think it is probably far and away the best use of a location. And though, some things I know were filmed in LA versus what was filmed at, I think, St. Agnes College in Georgia, right outside of Atlanta, that Scream 2 does such a seamless job at weaving all of the set pieces together and making it seem so seamless and natural and organic. Like, the Rialto Theater feels like it is right on the outskirts of town in Windsor College. And then you have the sorority houses. Like that feels like it's, just neighboring the main campus. And then you have everything on the quad and the gazebo. And we're going out of the classroom. And just like everything feels intimate but big at the same time. Whereas with New York, it's like it felt like we were jumping around very inorganically to different places, and it just didn't feel seamless or realistic in the way that like a Scream 2 or the OG or even Scream 4 felt. Scream 7, whereas from the trailer what I'm seeing is it is giving like, no, this town is the hub. Like we're going to see Sidney leaving home, going into the town, going to the school that's near the house, like the bar. Everything is giving realism and natural and an organic, this person getting from point A to point B. Not at all what Scream 6 was giving, where it just felt like we were in different places. And like, yes, you have the bodega there, but it doesn't really seem like the bodega is close to the university. And it doesn't really seem like Gale's like penthouse is, a realistic part of the story. So like I'm really vibing with the action pieces that we've seen at Sydney's house in the downtown area. And I really like the organic feeling of that.
I'm going to make a prediction here. So it looks like that going into the finale, that Tatum gets chased in the town, and I think she kind of gets chased into the coffee shop, and that's whenever the gun thing happens, right? That's my prediction. And I think Sidney is somewhere else, and she has to run to the coffee shop. Tatum's not going to be there, and then she's going to run home. So just imagine that. Imagine getting to see Nev Campbell running on foot all over this little town going into the finale. That is giving Scream 1, if anything. It's going to feel like one big, long, epic scene. And again, I could be 100% wrong about this. This is just my perception based off of the trailer. But I think that is so damn cool. And speaking of Nev, Jake, I have a very specific question for you. So do you remember saying this? Okay, this was this was 2 years ago. This was like 2 Novembers ago. But it was before the big event of November of 23's. Just think about that weird time, like, where we were really excited to get a Scream 7. We were hoping that Nev would come back and be a co-lead with Sam, but it was before Scream 7 fell apart. So you said to me, I forget if it was via text or if you tweeted it out, but there was a conversation with us. You said to me, I would, if I had to choose between just having one of them, Nev Campbell or Courtney Cox, to come back in Scream 7, I would choose Nev Campbell. And I don't know why, but I think about that from time to time because I couldn't, if I was given a choice of having to go between one or the other, because one, Nev wasn't in the last one, and Sidney is so important and she is the main character and she should be driving it, versus Gale Weathers, I couldn't say no to Gale because of how horribly Scream 6 left her. It's like, for me, but they're both going to be so important to the success of Scream 7. So I'm curious to know what you think of, first of all, do you remember that little story? And two, what did you think of Sidney in the trailer and Gale in the trailer?
It's funny that I said that.
I know.
But
you're a Gale person.
Yes, you know how much I love Gale. And I think that I would choose Gale every time, but I needed Sidney to be back. And I think that I would still have said that if I had to choose between them for Scream 7, I would need it to be Sidney. As dissatisfied as I also was with Gale in 6, at least she had that chase scene, even though it was definitely left on a, not a great note and we didn't get as much time with her as I would have liked. Scream 7, I love what I'm seeing with Sidney. I'm a little more nervous with Gale. A little more nervous because we didn't see that much of her. But I also think that there's plenty being preserved. And I know that the story needs to focus on Sidney, but I hope that Gale is not just in the background. I hope she's more front and center. And I think she will be. I think that they just decided to have this trailer focused more on Sidney, which I do think is smart. Gale was in the last one. One of the selling points of this film is it's a return to form in the sense that we are going back to following Sidney. And we've talked about this before. Sidney is Scream. Sidney Prescott is Scream. So is Gale Weathers. She's been in 7. This will be your 7th in a row, obviously. But Sidney Prescott, Nev Campbell, she is so deeply ingrained ingrained in the fabric of the franchise. And she had to be back for this one.
So, and the thing about Gale is, let's just talk about what you said about Gale, because that is a fear, I think, of a lot of Scream fans. And it's legitimate, because I do get the sense that Courtney, she really wants to be involved. She wants to be in the movie, but she doesn't want to dedicate 3 months of her life to it. She wants to dedicate maybe 3 weeks of her life to filming it, right? And that's a problem whenever you have, fans that want her to be a main character like she was for the first four. I do think that the Gale we're going to get is she's at least going to have what she was in Scream 4 in terms of the screen time and in terms of the narrative significance. I think she's going to match that. Will she be a Scream 2 or 3 Gale? Probably not. And I know that's a little disappointing, but we have to, it is what it is. For me, I'm just hoping that she's significant to the plot, that it's meaningful, and that there's a change, and there's an arc, and that there's an emotional core to it, and it feels like Gale again. And I want her to have a lot of scenes. So what are your thoughts there?
I agree with you. Think that Courtney, yes, she wants to be involved. She says yes. Thank God she says yes, because she needs to be in these movies. But I think it's probably it would be a disservice for people to think that she will have the level of 1 through 3 engagement, especially for this film, since we know it's going to be Sidney focused and we need to be exploring that relationship. And you know what? If Gale has to take somewhat of a back seat to avoid it coming at the cost or detriment to Sidney and her daughter and family story, I'm okay with that. But let's leave Gale on a much better note and place than we did for 6, because that was, that just wasn't fair.
And it does. But she doesn't even have to take a back seat per se. I still think that like she's going to be in the top. She's either going to be in terms of screen time, it's going to be Sidney, Isabel, for sure. Those two are locked. Sydney's going to be first, Isabel's going to be second. But after that is kind of an open question. I don't see a world where she's not either 3 or 4. Even if, Courtney only filmed for 2 weeks, or whatever. I think that she is going to be important enough and have a lot of scenes. Because I think a lot of the plot and the mystery of whatever's going on with Stumacher and Roman and Dewey is going to be tied into Gale. So I have a question for you. This is a very specific niche question. You can film a lot of dialogue driven scenes if you forego having a big action set piece. So in Scream 6, potentially something that happened, and the reason why she didn't get a lot of scenes outside of her set piece was it took, probably 2/3 of her filming days to just film the apartment sequence, versus, so anyways, so if it means in Scream 7 that we get Gale to have at least 10 plus scenes in the movie of her working with Sidney, doing dialogue heavy scenes, doing the mystery, but we don't get a big action moment with Ghostface. Do you think that that's a fair trade that you are willing to take?
Yes. You agree. Yeah, that is a fair trade I'm willing to take. Because I think that was the template of the first Scream, if I remember correctly. Gale did not have long extended scenes. They reminded us of her in several parts of the movie. Like she had some compelling, gripping scenes, but it was a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there, a few minutes. It wasn't the 10 to 15 minute sequence or whatever that she got in Scream 6. I think Kevin being at the helm of the script and obviously penning the OG and knowing how Gale was used there is going to come in handy. He knows that balance. I know he created the character. He loves Gale. He loves Courtney. I trust his judgment and his ability to give her, the scenes that she deserves. But like it is Sidney and her daughter's time.
Yeah.
And I am okay with Gale popping up, having some scenes. Hopefully she gets a like sassy exchange with Mark Consuelos's character, Robbie Rivers, if that's the direction that we've been rumored to maybe be going in. Like maybe she gets her Rebecca Walters moment from 4, which is so great and like one of the standouts of that movie. And just like a minute or two, like that's all you kind of like need with Gale. Like maybe we want more. We love Gale. Scream 2 is my favorite for a reason. That's Gale Weathers' fucking movie.
I think it would be the smart move to not give her another big action set piece. I think I would rather take a Gale investigating like she is, say, in Scream 3 versus just an isolated big set piece like Scream 6. I think having a set piece like she did in Scream 6 was good. We checked it off, because she hasn't had a big set piece like that really since the Stabathon or Scream 2. But as it pertains to like, she can have a lot of different scenes with Nev, with Robbie, with the twins, with the suspects, doing all this stuff, if she is able to do that versus having to block off, 2/3 of her filming days to do action sequences and choreography. So I think it's just something worth thinking about. And like, I trust Kevin is going to give us a great Gale Weathers regardless. And again, I think that she will at least match the Scream 4 Gale. So we'll be in good hands. So
My question though, is something I'm curious about. I know one of your big gripes is we don't see Gale at the end of Scream 6, right? We don't get that scene of closure with her. Is that a non-negotiable for you in 7? Like, do you need her? Do you need to have some closure with her at the end of the movie? Like, do you need her
yes.
involved in the third act? Like, what are your thoughts? I mean, I know
I
them, but
You can guess. I think anybody in the world can guess if they've seen one post of mine. No, I think she needs to be involved in the ending. I think that like I'm not saying she has to be part of the killer reveal. I'm fine with her. Because like, I'm fine with her having a limited role in the finale as long as she's there. As long as I see her in the epilogue. As long as I see that she's living happily ever after. That she and Sidney are together. That that they're standing side by side. Like that's what I want. I want to see that she has closure. I just don't want what it was in Scream 6 where we learned that she survived off screen and the last time we see her she's bleeding out and it's kind of like that was so sloppy and such a slap in the face. It was kind of the worst way to handle the exit of Gale Weathers, and I just think that yes, she needs to be either in the finale or the epilogue. So or obviously both, but definitely she needs to have a moment at the end of the film where it's like, okay, this is the last page of this chapter for Gale.
completely agree. I completely agree. And I hope that we see that. Like my favorite endings, Gale is always involved. So that needs to be the case in this movie, I think, in some way.
So I have to ask, do you have any final thoughts about the trailer? Is there anything you want to share? And also, what are your thoughts on a potential ending where things aren't sewn up? So you asked me about the ending, in particular, specifically Gale. What if we get a movie that doesn't have as firm of an ending? I don't think that we're going to get a cliffhanger, but less conclusive than the other Scream films.
Yeah, I mean, final thoughts on the trailer. I made a TikTok about this. I'm more curious about what we do not see than what we do see in the trailer because I think that they did a very masterful job at masquerading things, hiding a lot. The opening, I'm just curious to see the grandiosity of it. Like, obviously, we see Stu's house is lit on fire, which we think is the opening. Some people have speculated that's the ending, which I think is interesting. I personally think it is the opening. It's what captures Sydney's attention. I'd be interested to know what you think there too. But I'm just interested to see how the opening goes, like what the context of it is, if it is able to like live up to scale and not seem as like, claustrophobic as Stu's house in 5, which yeah, I would have liked to have seen like a bird's eye view when it's on fire, which makes me a little nervous that it is going to be a soundstage situation, but we'll just have to see on that. In terms of the ending, I would be all here for a cliffhanger and open ended. Like if we don't know who one of the ghost faces is, or there's something teased that leaves some questions that will be answered in 8. Like it would just be so great to be able to leave the theater and confidently know that we're getting an 8, even though I highly suspect we will be. But that's one reason I'd be totally here for a cliffhanger if it makes sense and is complementary to the plot in the film. Then I'm here for it. But if, I don't want them to just do it to do it. And I know that Kevin wouldn't. So, but I would certainly be open to that. We always have questions after a Scream film, but having like a serious question that the next one has to answer, I think could be interesting. What do you think?
I mean, I like the conclusive endings. I really, really do. But I'm fine with it like gently setting up or being kind of like almost a rhetorical moment. I think that as long as Sidney and Gale and Tatum have closure and there's something beautiful and poetic about the ending where it feels like, okay, I'm okay letting this rest for right now. I just don't want it to be so open that if God forbid we don't get Scream 8, that it feels messy or like historically wrong. So, and I don't think that that will happen. I do think that one will have an ending that feels like an ending, and we're gonna get Scream 8 and 9.
Sounds like what you don't want is the I know what you did last summer 2025 ending.
Yeah, I would not like that. Do you just off of out of curiosity, do you think we're gonna get a sequel to that?
I don't know. Is it bad to say maybe I don't care? I don't know after that cluster F of a movie, as much as I would love to see, Jennifer Love Hewitt and Brandy in their own movie, like it may need to be a different director because I just wasn't here for I know what you did last summer. I've almost forgotten about it entirely. And I hate to say that. I was looking forward to it. It just really didn't meet the mark for me. Loved our girl Sarah Michelle Gellar's cameo. Like so glad we got that. But just the ray of it all, the story, the new characters, it fell so flat. for
And
me.
nobody talks about it. Like, it's like, I feel like sometimes it is okay to forget that it came out, because compare, like, I Know What You Did Last Summer to Scream or even any of the Halloween sequels. Like, you didn't forget about those sequels coming out. Like,
No,
and this is
no.
just so forgettable, and like, it didn't make much money. I would honestly be surprised if we get a sequel. I think that, and also, to be honest, I don't know if, like, would be excited for it? Would I cover it? Would I anticipate it? Of course. I would not anticipate a sequel, like, so, like, I wouldn't expect a lot from it if it is from Jennifer Caitlin Robinson. I think that she did a lot of what's wrong with the movie is her fault. And I think that a sequel with her would be like, Julie, Carla, and the two new girls being I feel like it would be more of a comedy. It would be more like the show Scream Queens by Ryan Murphy than it would be
Yeah.
than I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Completely agree. I don't know where she would take it. And it just like, I didn't like how the ending, the mid credits or whatever was almost like, yeah, so none of what you just saw in this movie mattered. What really matters is like, maybe we'll get a movie with Brandy and Jennifer Love Hewitt, but maybe try to remember some of the plot of this hour and whatever movie we just watched. Even Tommy and I were just talking, my husband, about, he was like, yeah, that movie was not good. Like,
Yeah.
we both have forgotten it. And it's upsetting because, as fans of horror slashers and Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer and Scream being sort of, of the same ilk, like I wanted to see it be great. Like I wanted it to be a critical and commercial success. And I think that it unfortunately did not live up to any of those expectations. Some people rightfully kept their expectations low. I tried to as well, but it came in even under my expectations. I don't think Scream 7 is going to do that. I think Scream 7 is going to live up to or even exceed expectations based on what I've seen, because the thing that Scream 7 has going for it, Ryan, as everybody listening knows, Sidney Prescott is coming back. She's leading the film. She is the one of, if not the most compelling, most well fleshed out, storied characters in not only slasher history, but all of horror. And the fact that the story will be focusing on her and her daughter, and Kevin Williamson directed and co-wrote the script, like, I'm not worried at all. At this
Well,
point, I just want it to do well box office wise. I know it will do, I'm sure, fine critically, but I'm so confident that it will be 10 steps above, in quality of I Know What You Did Last Summer.
well, I would hope so, Jesus. But so I'm going to make a
Yeah.
prediction. So your ranking is going to be, after the dust settles, because people's rankings. I'm making a rule. Just I decided right now, we are going to make a rule that we're not going to share new rankings on the podcast until at least a month after the new movie is done. So in April, we'll do new rankings. But just because it's going to be so fresh, and I want people to have, like, whatever people say their new rankings, I want it to be genuine. So, but my guess is your ranking, let's just say next May, is going to be 2, 1, 7, 4, 3, 5, 6, 6, 5. I forget which one you put first, but I think that's going to be your ranking. Do you think I'm right?
I think you're right. I do think you're right. Yes, I would say I would predict my ranking would be 2, 1, 7, 4, 3, 5, 6, probably. I think that's about what you said, right?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that's where I would be. I mean, dude, who knows? Like, the exciting thing about this is, and 5 and 6 had sort of this potential, 6 less so because Sidney wasn't involved. But with Sidney coming back, Gale coming back, Sydney's daughter, like, I mean, this has the potential to really make a big impact on my ranking. And I mean, hey, I'm totally here for it challenging the second spot after 2, and coming in before 1. It's going to be hard, next to impossible, for it to beat out 2. I don't think any movie will ever do that, considering it is up there in my favorite like films of all time. But I would be here for the challenge. I want to see 7 be as great as it can be, and it has all of the ingredients to hit the sweet spot and to really be an incredible film. And I hope it is, for our sake, for Kevin's sake, for the future of the franchise's sake, for everyone involved's sake. And it's just an exciting time. I'm excited for the next trailer, more marketing materials, and like February 20th. It can't come soon enough, but also it can wait a bit because I want to live in the moment and be excited. And I'm sure you do too, with the podcast and everything. The lead up it's like Halloween and Christmas and our favorite holidays. The lead up is oftentimes better than, the day itself. So I'm just trying to savor it, and I'm excited to see it. But
I just want to comment on that for a second. Like, I feel I feel exactly what you just said. So, this month of November has been so refreshing for me. It's just seeing everyone's genuine excitement for the trailer. Everyone who's been on the podcast who has talked about the trailer, but also just the vibe out in the world. Like, I finally feel like Scream is back. Like, because like for a long time, a lot of people left the fandom, or at least disassociated from the fandom, where they didn't want to think about Scream, talk about it, or be involved, because there was just so much drama coming from the Melissa people, and people just didn't want to have anything to do with it. So first of all, I appreciate everybody who kind of stuck around and was around during the past 2 years, because I've been here. There have been people here, but there are definitely people who were involved for 5 and 6 and who kind of left, and I hope to see them again. But two, I do want to enjoy this. I want to enjoy the build up to it. It's going to be, I want this to be, even a bigger deal and a more cherished part of my life than the build up to Scream 5. Like, I love the build up to Scream 5 and the release of Scream 5, but I want this to be even greater because it's with the people that I care about more than those buffoons. So, that's what I kind of want from the next couple of months. So yeah.
Soaking it in. That's what I'm trying to do. And we got the trailer. We can finally shut up about incorrectly guessing when it was going to come out. It happened. It was great. It did huge numbers on socials. Like, anyone saying that people aren't here for Scream 7, look at the numbers, look at the metrics. They don't lie. And people said, the star power of Melissa and Jenna is what really catapulted these last two films. You look at the
Girl.
stats for the trailers and the marketing, they are right up there, and it's in a lot of ways surpassed the marketing for that. No, people are here for Sidney Prescott. They're here for Gale Weathers. They're here for the new generation of Prescott. And we love Melissa. We love Jenna. They're deeply missed, and I wish they were in this film. They are not. We have the Meeks twins coming back. I know we didn't talk much about them because they're sort of more subdued in the trailer, but obviously, like, looking forward to Jasmine Savoy Brown and Mason Gooding returning. But anyone who's saying that people are not coming to won't be going to see this movie for Sidney and Gale and our OG characters, they're just lying to themselves. And
Yeah.
the numbers show people are excited and here for this. So
Couldn't agree with you more. Quick questions before we go. One, you mentioned the Meeks. Do you have any thoughts about them? And two, this is the month of Wicked Part 2. So this episode may even be coming out on the day of the release of Wicked Part 2. Do you have any vibes?
yes.
Do you have any vibes about Wicked Part 2?
Yes. So, any more thoughts on the Meeks? I don't have a lot. I know we've seen that we know that they're going to be in jeopardy in the bar scene. I think it would be a very impactful scene to have the two of them die. But if I had to guess who would die between the two of them, it would probably be Chad.
Yeah.
Although I'm definitely here for one of them dying, or even both of them dying, because I think it could truly, level up the stakes compared to the last one where Chad was stabbed a million times and survived from the plot armor, and Mindy had her, gravely injured but still somehow functioning, like, totally fine. So, like, I'd be fine with them both going. I hope they get some good scenes. It does look like the bar scene will be tense, so that's good. In terms of Wicked Part 2, I don't have a ton to say other than I'm excited. I hope Ariana and Cynthia are both nominated again. And honestly, I'd love to see them both win.
Yeah.
And I've heard that it is just as, if not better than Part 1, which I'm excited to see how John Chu pulls that off. Considering, if you know anything about Wicked, you know that after the second act, it can never really recoup or get back to where it was, at the
Intermission.
Intermission, exactly, the climax, Defying Gravity. So I'm just really excited to see, how Part 2 is delivered, and I'd love to see Cynthia and Ariana win, and I can't wait to hear them, hear some of the original songs, and just Wicked was a great part of the holiday season last year, and I'm excited we get another blessing of that this month.
I'm really gonna miss having a Wicked movie because we've had it for 2 years now. I've gotten used to it, and I just feel I love this universe. I love what Ariana and Cynthia have done. I love what John M. Chu has done, and I think that consider this, everybody. You're probably hearing this on November 21st, the day that it releases. Consider this final note that I'm ending on as the beginning of Ryan C. Showers being insufferable about Ariana Grande winning Best Supporting Actress for playing Glenda. She's gonna win this year, guaranteed. Mark my words. So.
Needs to. She really needs to. I think this is her moment too. And I hope it happens.
Well, Jake, thank you so much for recording with me and checking in. It's always nice to hear from you.
Oh, thank you for having me, Ryan. I love the show. I love the community. And I'm happy to join anytime. And I'm just excited for this lead up to 7. It's such a special time. And I think we all need to savor it, because who knows how many more times like these we'll have.
Hopefully, Scream 7 8 and 9. And then Nev and Courtney can walk away in peace. And I can walk away in peace.
Yes,
So,
until they come back like Jamie Lee Curtis did for Halloween 2018 in like 10 or 20 years.
oh my gosh. Well, Jake, thank you so much.
Thanks, Ryan.
All copyrighted material used or referenced in this show belong to their rightful owners and made possible by the Fair Use Act.
And number 3, never, ever, ever, under any circumstances say, I'll be right back. Because you won't be back.
Get another beer, you want one?
Yeah, sure.
I'll be right back!